And good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Bartkowski, and I am a part of the teacher effectiveness team here at Proximity Learning. And I am so pleased to present this mini PD series to you. This is our car wash series. Get in, get the learning, get out in 15 minutes or less guaranteed. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Christina. She is going to be presenting a topic on engagement through Zoom. Christina, let me go ahead and spotlight you for everyone. And you can go ahead and go.
All right. Well, good morning. Let me get the screen up here. There it goes. All right. So sometimes I know that we're kind of limited when we jump into classrooms. And so I went through a lot of different ways to make sure everybody was involved. All the students were involved in education and whatnot. And so these are kind of from all of the different resources I pulled. So we'll get started. First thing, you kind of have to plan ahead. It takes a little bit of work at the beginning to set up what we're going to go through and to set that tone, and then have reminders throughout the course. So just kind of plan for those. I spent the first week with my middle school students, just kind of learning all of this and setting those expectations and the norms before we use Zoom, how to use it, just a little refresher in case they had forgotten, those kind of things. And then periodically I will change some of my questions that I ask them, or some of the prompts that I want them to respond with, just to see if they're really paying attention. Plus, if it's always the same thing, they kind of quit reading and they just start clicking and, kind of keep them going. So the first feature that Zoom already has built into it, I'm sure most of us use it, is the chat feature. And you can do a couple of different things. You can do just quick answers, a letter T for true, a letter F for false. If you have a multiple choice screen that you're sharing, they can hit whatever, ABC, whatever. They don't have to type out a full sentence, unless if that's something that you're working on, you can do that. There's also the emojis that they can use. And this takes a little bit of practice because it takes some time for them to find it. But where you would begin to type, there's a little smiley face. And then when you click on the smiley face, it'll have a little pop-up window. And in that window, they can search for their emojis, kind of like what we do on our cell phones. And you can also change the skin tone of the emojis, which some people forgot that they could do that on Zoom. So I always kind of point that out. But I'll sometimes ask them to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, a check mark, a green check mark, or a red X, something so that they kind of change it up. Every once in a while, I'll also throw in, an animal that for them to send to me of kind of what they feel like that day, whether they're kind of shy like a cat, or if they're brave like a tiger and a lion, just kind of change it up. Plus, I like animals, so it gets them involved. There is a breakout option that when you give students a prompt beforehand, we can do the think, pair, share using our breakout rooms and documents such as whiteboard chat, or even a Google document if everybody has access to that, depending on the firewalls of the district. That may work. One that I have been using lately is a Canvas.app. And it's just pretty much like whiteboard chat, but they can still access it, give or take, depending on, again, the cookies that they have set up. So sometimes that works pretty well, but this will allow everybody to share their answers with those collaborative boards and whatnot that are possible with the breakout sessions or through the whole classroom, depending on how big your class happens to be. Show and tell in Zoom. This was really took off a big time when everybody was quarantined, but you can still keep this going throughout a brick and mortar situation as we're kind of a hybrid. And it kind of morphs for my middle school students, became more of a think, write, share. So I can send them or share a picture of some event happening, artwork, even a book cover. And I want those students to kind of share what they're thinking, think about what they're going to put in there, and then maybe answer some questions. And these are some that we kind of look at with my language arts students. What are we looking at? Why are you having this reaction to it? What do you feel? What do you see? Using those inference skills, which a lot of them have seemed to be lacking. So I get them to kind of create a little bit of a story that we used to do. I don't know. I remember in elementary school, we'd have a picture and that would be our writing prompt for the day. So that's kind of the same mindset, just to kind of get their ideas out there. And there's really no right or wrong answer with any of that. It's just to get them to think. And a lot of my middle schoolers have really appreciated that because they always want to be right, whatever that happens to be. And I'm like, no, there's gray. There's a lot of gray in life. It's not always black and white. One thing that we do like to use, my 8th graders especially, we like to use our reaction buttons. Once they got into it, they really like to use these. A lot of times I get the fireworks, or they've changed them up, because in our reaction post, if you hit this little more double, triple dot, it will change up your icons. So you don't always have to leave the same icons up there. They can change it up. But it's always a good way, just real quick, send me this, give me a green check mark. Is it working? Is it not working? They can just quickly let me know. One of the things that I tend to forget sometimes with my newer students is using the speed up and slow down buttons that are already put into here. So again, this is where that little bit of planning, make yourself a sticky note to put onto your computer screen. That works for me. If students need to slow down, they're like, wait, I'm confused. They can use this little gray back arrow. If they're good and everybody's set to go, you can use the little fast forward button and, kind of pick it up. But it's a real quick way for them to let me know, wait, I'm confused. And there's not necessarily a way for, they may not want to type it in there, but they can just quickly give me a reaction and let me know. This is probably the one area that I use multiple times in a class period as the little polls. This is where a lot of planning goes into it beforehand, but with the new Zoom polls, you can create a master list of polls, and then it goes through all of your classes. So it's nice to do this. I have my polls created in order that I would like to use them throughout the day, because when I run my poll report, it will put them in that order of whatever poll I created first, second, third, fourth, whatnot. The most common ones I use are a morning check-in or beginning check-in, a status check, to where I kind of say, hey, what are you guys working on? Since we do have some work days and writing days that we have planned. A self-assessment, just me asking the students, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think you're good? You need a little bit more practice? And then the exit ticket. So in your Zoom profile, let me get it to open up. You can access these polls just under meetings, and there's our new polls and quizzes. And so there are those polls. And for like my check-in, sometimes, I get it. I kind of just ask just a little generic, hey, how are you feeling? I always put in the hungry one in there. I had one group of kids that he always like, no, I feel cheesy today. And I'm like, all right. So I updated it for him to have him feel cheesy, because he was the comedian of the group, and it worked out. And then I'll change this up, just reminding them, hey, did you complete the bell ringer? Did you not? Right now, that's just what this is set up as, but you can go in and change the order of these questions or answers and questions. And then when you save them, it's going to be in there. Yeah, save. This self-assessment one I really like, because it kind of expands their vocabulary, as well as lets them know, hey, what this kind of means. And I normally do this after I introduce a new topic, just a quick little assessment, just to see, hey, how do you feel about this? Are you still kind of questioning it as a novice or maybe an apprentice? okay, I think I need this, but I need a little bit more practice. Very few times at the first of the lesson do I get somebody say, oh no, I'm a practitioner or an expert. Most of them come down here, which is where I expect. We'll do a few more activities and then I can pop it back up a day or two later after as we progress through. And then you can see that progression. And since it does save it as a report, I can come back and show them, look, you've made progress. Yay. All right, so that is just there under the meetings. So let me flip back over here. From your screen, when you go to present that, you can click on this little poll icon at the bottom of the screen, and it will pop it up with your menu drop down of which poll that you want to present. And then you'll click on it, that title, and then present the poll. And I normally give everybody about, I don't know, a minute and a half, kind of depending on the number of students and what are we actually working on. If they're in the middle of working on a work day, I give them a little bit more time to progress through that, just because I know they may be on a different screen and not looking to it. And a lot of times I'll just, hey, there's a poll, just let them know so that they'll go through there. Now, at the end of class, when I'm running through all of my attendance reports to see who has attended class for the amount of time they need to, and all of those kind of things, you can do the same thing back on your Zoom profile under reports. And there's our reports. And if you'll click on meeting, it will give you these three options. I always just do my poll reports. Now, since all of my students are testing, I have none this week. So let me go back to April. Okay, so I changed the dates to that current day just because it gets kind of crazy. All right. So there are the two classes on Fridays that I have, and I can generate my report. It will go through and load it, and I can download it into an Excel document. And I'm going to, there you go. So your students' names would be there, but it tells you the class date and then when the time was, but it will put the order of their things in there, and you can make it bigger so that you can kind of see, hey, what are we working on? And then you've got your questions. But since my check-in was there at the beginning, that's why it pulls up as poll number 1. Then we did our little exit ticket. It was a shorter day thanks to a fire alarm. So they just had two polls. But what I like about Excel, I can always highlight the table and put it into a different color with the format table and then save it. And then that also kind of gives me an idea of, hey, are you actually participating? Since at this particular school, as soon as we turn on the cameras, they die. the Zoom just crashes and we're like, all right, leave the cameras off. So I can never gauge their visual cues as to, hey, are we lost? Are we not? So Zoom polls have become the go-to on that. But that's pretty much it. I do have this group of resources. These websites are where we got a lot of this stuff from. Matt Miller and Ditch the Textbook. He has a huge podcast that I started following years ago. But he primarily stays in Google Classroom. But I use some of that into the Zoom classroom, and then our images, so that if you guys wanted to incorporate that into your introduction classes, I can't think of it, your orientation, then you have those images of, you don't have to go find them. They're there. But that is all I have. I apologize. I'm losing my voice.
Christina, I thought that was great. And you have actually introduced me to parts of, truthfully, parts of Zoom that I'm not in the habit of using. I love that you use those poll features. I think that is a really great way, especially for classes who may not have, the capability of doing running multiple tabs and things like that. Excellent.